Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Comics de la Morte, episode 71 Favorite Horror Movie Posters. And, Jason, he might come in today, he might not, because he has some family things to take care of. But, as people who are doing this show, we're doing this for free because we love to talk about horror movies, horror comics in general. And, people who are able to read my stuff and went on my link tree, they'll know that, I suffer from a movement disorder. So there are days that, I don't have enough energy or I'm in pain to even do the show. But as always, me and Jason love you guys and appreciate you guys for coming on in the live chats or even watching the show later on and just showing the love and appreciation that you have for the show. So thank you all. So yeah, with this episode, it's probably going to be short, but just really wanted to talk about, you know, favorite horror movie posters because especially the audience that mostly listens to the show are ones who are like, in their 30s or older, ones who actually grew up going to, not just movie theaters, but going to, Blockbuster Video and stuff like that. And you would see posters of upcoming movies that would come into the theaters or posters that would be going into the Blockbuster Video or any rental store like Hollywood Video. And sometimes I know me personally, a movie that I movies that I would just fall in love with was just how scary or artistic the front cover was. So yeah, of course, as a kid, when we see a toy, if we see a toy doing some live action stuff or doing something cool instead of something that was just staying there, of course we'll be drawn to it. So the same thing happened with me at a young age with horror movie boxes, and most of the time the boxes were the poster as well. So let me get into some of the favorite posters that I love. And some of these posters are not like my favorite horror movies per se, but they're my favorite poster art just because of just the time it took. So let me get into my first one that I really enjoy. Do screen share. Do. And this one is going to be pretty scary. And yeah, so this one, Night of the Demons, if anybody doesn't know the movie, basically how it says here, Angelica is having a party. Jason and Freddy are too scared to come, but you'll have a hell of a time. And basically, Night of the Demons, there's a Halloween party going on, and a bunch of other kids leave, but in the process, seven friends stay behind. And what it is, sorry for any spoilers for people who have never watched the movie, but the movie's been out for at least like 30 something years. I think 35. No, 33. And yeah, so basically they're just having fun doing spin the bottle, listen to music, party and stuff, and they just decide to like look into a mirror and do some crazy witch seance shit, that I recommend nobody to do because you never know, even if you're not super believe in supernatural, just crazy shit. But yeah, so one demon takes over the girl that's on the front cover here, and what it is that the storyline is that there was these seven demons that grouped up together, and they thought that the devil himself was, lazy and waiting forever to, take over the world. But, the devil was following the end of times with the revelations and stuff like that. So these demons thought that, hey, we need to conquer the world and because the devil's lazy and we could do it better ourselves. So what it is that these seven demons tried to take over the world every Halloween night or the first Halloween night, but they didn't succeed. So what it is that if the demons could claim 7 people that they could possess, then they're able to rule the whole world and and heaven and hell and heaven. So pretty much, this isn't like any like art style. It's just basically a woman in special effects makeup. But as a kid, when I saw this cover, it was fucking freaky as hell. And Jason, if he was on the show with me, he would agree because I know he was working in a movie theater when he was a kid. I don't know if his parents owned it or they were just like there, but I remember him saying that he never seen Demon Knight, but he always knew the movie because of this poster. And like I said, as a kid, going to a movie theater or even seeing the box cover art, it scared you, but you wanted to know more about that movie. And that's the thing that, with me as a kid, we didn't have YouTube. YouTube came out when I was already in college. So all we had to hear was, what one person said, oh, you got to watch this movie. It's freaky as hell. It's going to scare you. And just seeing the cover art, let alone could tell you that, it's something that you need to watch. But, I like how they, like, again, the special effects makeup on the woman with the glowing eyes, the teeth and everything, just really great work. Sometimes I feel that now when when they try to make stuff CGI, if they would try to make her face CGI, it wouldn't be as great. And then just kind of crop how, like, you see part of the screen on the right-hand side where the letter's burning is kind of showing that transition of, going into hell. But really great work. I love it a lot. Can't say, could talk more about it, but want to keep on going. So let me get to the next one. And the next one, we're going old school. Okay. Yeah, that's that one. Nope. Right here. Yep. That's it. So the next one that I'm a fan of is Karloff, the Mummy. Most of the, like, don't get me wrong, the Mummy is definitely not my favorite Universal monster. But what I love about the cover art is that a lot of the cover art that you would see online for like Dracula, the Wolfman, or Frankenstein, it was always this giant floating head in a way, and then an image on below. I'm not a big fan of like the giant floating head. I mean, even in Marvel comics where they had like the heads of the heroes in the sky or on the cover, I always thought was weird. I like to see like more of the character. And this one I really did like because you actually got to see more of the Mummy and see the bandages. And I just love the colors that they used back then where, you could tell it was hand painted and it wasn't digital, and just the detail that was in it. And of course, if people don't know the Mummy, you must be living on a rock. But, enough said about that one. But let's go to another one that I really love. And this isn't a real gory horror movie per se, but it's more of a horror comedy, but it's one of my favorites as a kid. Let's see. Ah, yes. And I have a t-shirt of it too as well. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Love the movie. One of my favorite, if not favorite, all-time horror comedy from the 80s. It's one of these movies where me and my brother, my younger brother, I got two brothers and two sisters, but me and my younger brother, as a kid, you would, especially back in the 80s, you would watch a certain movie on VHS and then you would rewind the movie and watch it again, rewind the movie and watch it again, to the point where me and my brother literally destroyed the movie. But, here you could see the world is being destroyed because of the electricity that the clown is. Kind of like how the clown has like a shocker on his hand, like you would see the Joker, stuff like that. Like I said, not creepy cover art, but you just had to watch it because as a kid, I'm like, I see killer clowns and I'm like, okay, it's something horror related, but it has that goofy style to it that either I'm going to get scared and laugh at the same time, or I'm just going to hate it and, just ruin my weekend from school. But another movie you have to watch, like I said, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's a horror comedy. Like literally you see clowns shooting people with puppets. Like they have a hand puppet and the hand puppet has a gun and they would shoot a person and the person would all of a sudden turn into cotton candy. And that's how they would eat, by turning the person into cotton candy, and inside their body would be like almost liquefied, and they would use like straws to drink it. And then you had them using like different type of powers, like with the shadow hand puppet that would grab people, but very funny stuff. Again, this one is definitely one of my favorite horror movies, but not like my favorite, like, cover your eye horror movies, but like one of those horror movies that are like cult classics and will give you a good time. Even if you don't get scared, he'll make you laugh. And great makeup and special effects. Like this, if I'm not mistaken, the same people who made Clowns from Outer Space, one of the brothers helped create the Critters design. The little furry creatures with the pins that come out of them. So let's go on to another one. And this one would actually be my first horror movie that I've ever seen as a kid. And if people don't know, one of the first horror movies I seen as a kid was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which Dream Warriors is probably my favorite, Freddy Krueger movie. And it's a lot of people's favorites. So let me show that. But it's one of those things like Nightmare on Elm Street posters always have things that never was totally true to the movie, and you'll see why. So let's see. Stop screening there. Go to tabs. Yeah, right here. So with this one, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, it was like I said, it was my favorite one because it started introducing that thing that, in your dreams, you could have magic powers. Each kid had a special ability. You would have one kid, Kincaid, a really big, tall guy, Kincaid, he's a black male. And also Kincaid is probably the first black character to survive a horror movie and be in the next one. So awesome for that. Kincaid has always been one of my favorite male characters in the Nightmare Elm Street franchise. But with him in the dream world, he had super strength. One person had, the ability to shoot electricity and stuff like that, like as a wizard with Dungeons and Dragons. But this cover art, like I said, I really like because you have Freddy looking upon the group of kids and you see his blades out and they're stepping on the blades and each kid is having a certain weapon. But what made me laugh, and it's true because as a kid you never pay attention to it as much or you just forget, but like Kincaid here on the left-hand side, he's a white guy. So it makes me wonder at times the people who design these like horror movie posters for like Nightmare on Elm Street especially never like read the script or watch any parts of the movie. So I found that really funny. But like I said, a lot of these Nightmare on Elm Street movies later on will use like Freddy's eyes and showing his face, but just this one, like I said, this was the first horror movie I've ever seen, and one of my favorite covers just for the fact is that, you have a bunch of kids standing across looking to Freddy in the sky, and it's like, hey, no matter what, we're here and we're going to kick your ass, or at least try. So now we're going to go into some posters that are going to be like freaky as hell, like the, Night of the Demons. So let me show you those. What's up? Just going into some posters talking about, probably not going to stay on that long, probably about 30 minutes, Gary. I know Jason's got some stuff up, but just going through some of my favorite posters, Night of the Demons, the original Mummy poster. But let me see. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Gotta make it bigger. So this poster right here, Waxworks. It's a movie about how a wax museum is traveling to this certain town, and it opens up. And of course, the creator of the wax house opens it midnight to have a couple kids to review it. And of course, teenagers going into a strange area with like a bunch of, creepy shit inside, most of the kids are going to get killed. And in there, you see like wax figures of like werewolves, deformed people, crazy stuff like that. But as a kid, when I first saw this cover, it really scared me and it intrigued me because you have all these like different faces of people looking in at you while the door is open and have the small man like welcoming you inside. And it kind of, looking at it, it kind of reminds me some Junyu Ito, like Oyuzumaki scenes that I can't remember what chapter it was, but there was a chapter where there was a furnace that opened and you saw all these crazy heads coming out. But this, like I said, this was like definitely 80s where, a lot of horror movie posters or boxes will just have like a simple image to it as a kind of bit, but 80s always went far out because they know it's like, hey, we don't have YouTube, we need to promote our shit. So we got to do it through a movie poster or the box cover art. So I really enjoyed that. But Gary, since you're here, man, you could, throw in the chats what was one of your most favorite horror movie posters that you liked as a kid. Why bring up some of my other stuff? All right. Yeah, there it is. Make that bigger. Remove that. Screen share. There we go. Again, another favorite horror movie of mine. Not like my top, like, oh, you're going to get scared from this and you have to watch it because it's going to give you nightmares. But the original 80s Fright Night, not the Fright Night remake that they did with Colin Farrell. I haven't watched that one. And David Tennant is the actor who pretends to be a vampire hunter and then becomes a vampire hunter. But this one, I remember too, watching it with my sister and my other siblings. And just the art itself really fascinated me because, as you see here, you have the giant vampire face in the middle, and then around the giant vampire face, you have a bunch of other clouds, or if it's not clouds, like almost like a mist, like of creature faces. And, you know, again, a lot of 80s horror movie posters and VHS artwork, they really outdid themselves. And it's a shame because I wish they would do more cover art like this for a lot of horror movies now. It's like with Annabelle, they just have the image of the doll, and the nun, they just have the image of the nun. Hire artists to do these covers, like to do the posters, because that's what's beautiful. Like I showed you guys with the Mummy, like a lot of this stuff was hand drawn and hand painted. Like if I'm not mistaken, this Fright Night poster, I think it was hand painted as well, because in the 80s, special effects and especially digital art was not on par. So I would just imagine how long it would take to hand paint this as well, just because of the effects. And I love how it has that blue hint still to it, but it's transitioned good, so it's not blending in with the rest of the background. But before I go on more and talk about, some other stuff, I want to start promoting some stuff. And I know he's not here, but I have to do it because he's my co-host. He's one of my best friends. And yeah, so let's show you guys the Etsy store of Ransom Notes. I just got the book. I really enjoy it. I can't say enough. Okay, what Scary said. It's not exactly a horror movie, but the one I was really upset by as a kid was the poster for Jaws. The size of the shark, the girl being obvious, the jagged teeth, really good. Oh yeah, for sure, Gary. It's one of those things. It's not gory, kind of like with the one I showed with House Wax or Fright Night, but it kind of almost paid homage to the old school horror movie posters where you don't have to show gore, just showing the image of the monster. And the girl, kind of like almost like the creature from the Black Lagoon, and you show the swimmer girl like she's getting ready to be attacked. So that's probably why that made a really big impact. But yeah, so Ransom Notes, let me see. And I haven't read the whole thing yet, but yeah, I got it with me and I'm really enjoying it. Sorry, Mike was acting up. But yeah, awesome design. Wanted to go with like that whole Thanos Infinity Gauntlet thing. But as if it's pretty much like he's talking about, if you guys don't know, talking about how he was raised up in a cult and getting out of it and everything. But let me just go into more on what he has here. So let's see. Screen share. There we go. Make sure it's going on. All right. So, just showing some of the artwork he has here. Right now it's $15 plus shipping and handling. I think it comes out to $16 if I'm not mistaken. But, it has poetry in it. It has dialogue. It has some comic book pages. But, if you guys have read a lot of horror comics back then, especially during the 50s, it wasn't all just comic book art. They would have like columns of people who would write like horror stories, horror columns, I think they were called, where, give a test run of like, does this writer is good enough to carry on a whole comic book? But yeah, Ransom Notes, I'm going to read a little bit about the description. A collection of dark short stories, comics, and poetry by Jason Alexander, designed to capture the desperation and realization that came from life in a cult bent on world domination. This book will serve as a peek into some of the things we will see as Ransom Notes series, novels, and comics is released. So, he has it there alone where he's planning to make more. And yeah, like I said, guys, go out and show Jason some support. He's a great guy, he's a great friend, great co-host, and he's been working at this for a long time. And not just because we're friends now, but when we first met, just seeing him grow as a artist and especially as a writer, like just honing his skills as a writer and, focusing on how to create that jump scare in the writing and create that suspense in the writing where you could see it come out, especially with this book. And I know it's something that he, in the beginning, he wanted to make when I first met him. So just, we've been friends for like almost going on 3 years, because we met like before the pandemic. So it would have been like 2019. So yeah, about 3 years. And it was just really great to see him grow. So show him some love, buy his book. You're not going to be disappointed. And of course, with me, as always, A Vengeful Heart on Tapas. I decided that, to get more of an audience out there, I'm going to go to Webtoons as well and see if Webtoons accepts my horror comic or they're going to delete it. Because I think with Webtoons, they're a little bit more iffy on like how much gore and nudity and stuff you could do. I'm very excited to read my copy tonight. Yeah, for sure, Gary. And it's one of those things that I think after me and you read the copy, you should come on with me and we should, do our review of our friend's book. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, Vengeful Heart, I'm just going to put it on Webtoons as well, just to gain more audience and see how people flock to it. It's, on Tapas right now, the views and the subscribers are slowly moving up. So I'm glad to see that. And he said, yeah, love that. Yeah, for sure, But yeah, so what was I going to say? Also to anybody who's watching the show right now or, listening to it in the reruns, again, thank you for all the love and appreciation that you have shown for the show, because next month, May, is the second anniversary of the show. And it's been awesome that we've been doing this for 2 years. We're in the 70s now, I don't know what we're going to do for the 100th episode, but that's far down the road. But yeah, so let me see. Let me try to find one more poster to really talk about, because like I said, I wanted to keep this short. But let me see here. Let's close that. Do. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I got the one. So the last one I'm going to do before we end the show, you know, and especially end it, because I know people, if you know your homework, the first like horror movie slasher was Black Christmas that came out. But then, you had Halloween with Michael Myers. He is the one that pretty much set the milestone, the footstone for slashers and what they are. But yeah, let's go with let me extend this. Let me share. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, right here. Halloween, the night he come home. The simple poster, but back in the 70s, this probably really intrigued people to know more about it. And again, it's the whole 80s, and they didn't have digital art during this time. Well, actually, no, this came out in the 70s before the 80s, so this was hand painted. But just, it was simple enough and interesting enough that you wanted to go watch it. And as a kid, me seeing it the first time at Blockbuster Video, because we went to Blockbuster. We didn't go to Hollywood Video until after a while. But it really intrigued me, with the whole hand and the blade and the reflection. And then, at first when I saw Halloween, I was like, okay, it has to be about a killer wearing a pumpkin mask. But, for all of us who knew, that's different. But I still like it enough because you don't have the whole face of the pumpkin, but yet you have like how it's like thinning out, and like you kind of see the pumpkin have like almost sharp teeth in a way. It was very interesting as a kid, and it pulled me in right away. So I would definitely, I don't know. It's just, as an artist, I'm glad that I was born in the 80s, because again, I see so many horror movie posters at like movie theaters, where it just seems like they take pictures of, or what is it? Like with Scream, for instance. Scream, besides seeing Ghostface, most of those posters in the movies growing up as a kid, or as well as a teenager at that point, they all they ever had was just like the actor standing in a line and then Ghostface in the back. Like there was no like artistic value in it. Like I hated when they started going into that, where all they showed on posters was the actors. Make it interesting, because it's one of those. Make it interesting, because it's just like with the comic book or any type of book cover. The reader is going to first see your cover art, and if your cover art for your comic looks horrible or doesn't look appealing, they're not going to want to buy it. Same thing, back then with the 80s and 90s and even farther back. The poster is what sold the movie. It really did. And just seeing a poster, back then, I can remember talking about, oh wow, did you see this? Did this? What do you think it's going to be about? But sorry if I'm rambling on. Just wanted to talk about some of my most favorite posters as a kid. But like I said, it's not my favorite horror movies, a lot of them, but they were my favorite cover art and stuff. So, hey, what's up, Bob? Appreciate you stopping by. I'm gonna be ending the show soon, so but I appreciate it. Maybe I'll give you a heads up that you could come by come by sooner. But Gary, thank you, buddy, for always showing up in the chats, even if you can't make it on the show sometimes. And Bob, appreciate you coming by, and I hope you all have a great weekend. And we'll see you all next time on Comics Della Morte.